I would be testifying on behalf of Ayuda's additional OVSJG funded programs in addition to our language access programs, where my colleague is going to speak upon. I will be speaking upon Project End and our recently arrived immigrants program. Project End combats fraud uniquely harmful to low-income immigrants, such as immigration legal services scam and bail bond schemes. We prevent fraud by providing consumer education and know your rights representations, and we address it through civil and criminal restitution efforts and rehabilitative immigration work. Project End seeks to prevent and address consumer fraud affecting immigrants through 4 methods: direct representation of victims, community education and technical trainings, screenings during pro bono consultations, and client-centered advocacy while liaising with DC and federal agencies. An example of a case: in 2015, Project End began representing Martine, whose name has been changed for privacy reasons. Martine is a longtime Ward 1 resident and non-citizen. He had traveled to his home country but accidentally overstayed his travel authorization period and was unable to return to the U.S. His daughter found a non-attorney or notario operating in the district who presented himself as qualified to provide immigration legal services. Unknowing, Martine waited anxiously for the application the notario submitted on his behalf to return to the U.S. to be approved, only to discover after months that he had been misled by the notario. This prolonged Martine's separation from his family and caused him significant lost wages. He was able to return with the help of a qualified attorney, and Ayuda helped him submit a complaint with the DC Office of the Attorney General, resulting in consumer protection action and settlement. Under the settlement, the notario agreed to stop providing immigration services, preventing future victimization. Further, Martine recently received a large restitution payment representing his months of lost wages. This work was only possible due to the support of the DC Bar Foundation's Access to Justice funding, a primary source of funding for Project End. While Martine was unavailable to provide testimony personally, he's very grateful for Ayuda and states the services are critical to the immigrant community in DC. In 2023, we anticipate continued confusion over changes in immigration law and policy, likely resulting in increased consumer fraud by unscrupulous non-attorneys. Project End needs ongoing support in order to respond to this need through 2023 and beyond. The Access to Justice Initiative also funds our recently arrived immigrants program, which provides comprehensive legal services, including consultations, brief services, and extended representation to recently arrived immigrants, as well as legal education events and training to local service providers. The number of newly arriving immigrants will continue growing as the U.S. ends the use of Title 42 at the border and as the busing programs implemented by border states persist. Newly arrived immigrants face challenges accessing work permits because of their immigration status and lack the established community networks of other immigrants with more time living in the area. As such, many are living in economically precarious conditions, leaving them vulnerable to food instability, homelessness, and crime victimization. The need for expert legal counsel for newly arriving immigrants continues to increase, outpacing our capacity. Ayuda remains committed to helping to meet increased demand, and we urge the Council to support this essential work by increasing funding for the Access to Justice Initiative. We are grateful for the opportunity to testify today. Thank you for your time.
My name is David Steib, and I am the Language Access Director at Ayuda. I'm here today to sound the alarm about the proposed 60% cut to the Access to Justice Initiative. Such a cut will have catastrophic consequences for the thousands of DC residents who rely on the program for legal help, many of whom belong to some of the district's most vulnerable populations. My organization runs the Community Legal Interpreter Bank, which the DC Council conceived of in 2007 as an integral part of the Access to Justice Initiative. The Council's vision ensures that DC residents who communicate in languages other than English are not shut out from the essential legal services that they need. We use initiative funding to provide professional interpretation and document translation services to 41 civil legal service providers in DC. Since 2007, the Community Legal Interpreter Bank has become a national model. After many years of work, the New York City Council has just appropriated $5 million for their city to replicate DC's shared legal interpreter bank. A 60% cut to the Access to Justice Initiative could gut this national model. What would our city look like with an anemic community legal interpreter bank? Landlords would prey on limited English proficient and deaf tenants, knowing that legal services are difficult for them to access. With impunity, landlords would fail to fix housing code violations and evict tenants without due process. Perpetrators of domestic violence would take advantage of unabated language barriers to isolate their victims from safety. And these are just a few examples. Without the bank, there would be a void in understanding and implementing language access best practices. Clients would be more likely to find themselves in the situation of asking their young child to interpret the details of their abuse, of not sharing information with their lawyer because an untrusted friend or family member is serving as the interpreter, of being turned away because of language barriers, or of having their legal case jeopardized by the mistakes of an unqualified interpreter. If these things happen, it would not be the fault of the legal services community. Language access is complicated and expensive. The DC Council decided to centralize the provision of language access for legal services to be more efficient. Ayuda employs full-time language access experts so that 40 other legal service providers do not have to. Ayuda vets, trains, contracts with, schedules, and pays interpreters, allowing other civil legal service providers to focus on providing legal services. Ayuda has created an online interpreter scheduling system that can be shared by the entire legal services community. The DC Council created a model that works beautifully. And we ask you not to dismantle what you created. We cannot, as a city, provide the protections of the law only to English speakers. According to census data, more than 34,000 individuals in the district, nearly 6% of residents, are limited English proficient. There's about 14,000 individuals who have a hearing difficulty and communicate with sign language. Last year, we provided 330 occasions of in-person interpretation, 9,000 instances of working on the phone with an interpreter, and we translated 460 documents. We helped people in all 8 wards, in Spanish, Amharic, and French primarily, but in many, many languages. In the last 2 years, the new funding has really helped us realize the purpose of the bank. Let's build on what we have. DC is a model city when it comes to language access, which is increasingly seen as a human right. Gutting our unique, nationally recognized community legal interpreter bank would be inhumane, inefficient, and disreputable. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.